where it is frustrating, because I really, really want to know what he's trying to tell me, because he's very intelligent, and I just think, oh, I wish I could understand.
He doesn't know that he's going to school for the first time. He's always seemed to be in his own world.
Jeremiah and Jack have both been diagnosed with autism, a lifelong developmental disorder which affects 1% of the population. They're about to start at a school which uses ABA, an intensive intervention which aims to change autistic behaviour.
We didn't know anything about ABA, but we found out that parents are moving from Belfast to Liverpool, Manchester, to this area to put their children into this school. We are hoping there will be a lot of changes in him. I like to think that he doesn't have autism. He goes to treetop and 2 years on the line he'll be okay.
My job as a professional is to choose the method that has proven to have the best effect. And ABA is that method.
I'm so excited because I've been waiting for this time so long. I just know it's going to work.
I can see from a parent's perspective that ABA might be attractive, but when people devise interventions, I don't think they really think about the potential harm.
Bye-bye, Jack.
Bye, Jack. Bye-bye.
Try this, copy me. We shuffle the cards, yeah, buddy. You can have a crisp, there we go. So we build the Lego. Fantastic, try this one, copy me. Can we build the Lego? Fantastic, dude. You can have a sweet, well done.
Applied Behaviour Analysis, or ABA, uses a system of rewards and consequences to modify behaviour. It is based on the discoveries of psychologist B.F. Skinner and his experiments with rats and pigeons at Harvard University.
Touch white. No.
ABA was first applied to children with autism in California in the 1960s and 70s.
What do you want? No. Go to the corner.
Ever since it first appeared, it has raised questions about the rights of children with autism.
Valentine, look at me. Valentine.
If I had a child who was 3 years old and appeared to be a violin prodigy, and I thought, okay, we're going to do 40 hours a week of violin drills, social services would be knocking on my door. But if I have a child with autism, it's okay.
What do you want?
I want cookie.
Good. Little bite.
When I first knew of ABA, I remember thinking, oh, I don't really like it, it's like dog training. Having seen it now and seeing how you motivate children and the kind of results you can get if a child's well motivated to if a child isn't motivated at all. Now I'm the opposite. I think anything goes. Use what they love to get them doing what you want them to do.
Tickle, tickle, tickle. Ready?
ABA has changed radically since its early experiments and is now used widely in the US, but not here. Jack and Jeremiah are starting their first term at Treetop, which is the only state school offering a full ABA program.
When the children first start with us, we find all of the things they like to get them to want to come to school, to enjoy being here. You know, it's all based around fun and it's autism heaven because they're getting everything that they love.
It's impossible to know how Jack and Jeremiah will be affected by autism as they grow up. The condition develops differently in every child.
During this time, we're doing assessments of the children. Eventually, they will start actively teaching him new skills. I mean, a lot of people will look at this child and not really be able to see that much traits of autism in this child. But he has got some.
Ready, super pushing.
I actually felt like my son hated me because the way he was lashing out, I couldn't comfort him. It was awful, and that's what nearly just put me into breakdown. I would say I was very close during this waiting period, very close to breakdown.
The kind of child that you see that's engaged in their own world, nobody can really get in on the fun or interact with them because they haven't been taught any other skills. Sometimes you have to block that self-stimulative behaviour, otherwise you can't engage them in anything else, they won't be able to learn anything new.
I'm not very good at looking after him. 5 minutes is enough for me, and I get really stressed. There's no speech, no eye contact. He doesn't follow any instructions at all, and he doesn't know when he's hungry, when he wants a glass of water, or anything like that.
And what for you is the thing that you find most stressful? It's
very difficult to say. When you think about it, he hasn't called me Dada, you know. He hasn't said Mama.
One of the features of Jeremiah's autism is that he finds it difficult when asked to move from one activity to another.
What's happened is he's got used to people following him around and people not really knowing the skills that you need in order to be able to engage a child. All you need to do to change behaviours is to reward the behaviours that you want to see and don't reward the behaviours that you don't want to see. If you ask a child to do something and they cry to get out of doing it, make sure the crying or the biting doesn't get them out of doing the task. In a demand situation, the demand just stays on the child. Nothing else happens in your world, nothing else fun's going to happen until you follow through with my request. Sometimes that might take 5 minutes, sometimes it might take 3 hours. It might take 3 hours on one day, the next time it'll be less time, and then soon you get a child that's complying with all your demands.
Before coming to Treetops, Jeremiah was at a mainstream nursery where he made very little progress. 70% of children who have autism are able to go to mainstream schools. Only those that are more severely affected attend special schools.
Hello. Say hello. Hello.
15 miles from Treetops, St Christopher's also has a large percentage of children with autism. Like the overwhelming majority of special schools in the UK, it has rejected ABA.
I think it's the rigidity that perhaps ABA offers over other approaches that maybe we sort of avoid.
How do you do? How do you do?
All of our children are individual, like we're all individual, and it's about educating those people around them, whether that's in school, in home, in society. I think it's important about learning to accept people that are a bit different.
The fundamental question about the education of children with autism is whether to accept these autistic differences or try to push children to learn new skills.
There's a huge clash of ideologies. Many people believe that autism is a different way of perceiving the world, and that we shouldn't necessarily believe that there is one normal developmental trajectory that people should be following. And on that view, you understand that the child has differences and that's okay. The aim then is to support that child in negotiating the world without trying to fundamentally take the autism out of them.
No, Ricky, put it on top of the dresser. Ricky, that's inside, put it on top. Good boy.
In ABA, at least historically, one of the main aims was to make autistic children indistinguishable from their peers. And so if that's your perception of what autism is, something that needs to be fixed or something that needs to be cured or made normal, then ABA would be the route to go down.
Gunnar Fredriksson is an independent ABA practitioner who works with families all over Europe. He believes it is possible for some children with autism to be brought out of the condition.
I don't appreciate autism. I cannot see anything good about it, to be honest. I think we should fight against it by all means, as early as possible and as intensively as possible.
Så fint. Gjør sånn. Bra. Gjør sånn. Ja, og den andre. Ja, og sånn. Og sånn. Nei. Sånn. Okay. Klapp.
Tobias has no language and finds it difficult to engage with the world around him. Gunnar has been working with him for 4 months.
Klapp. Ja. Klapp. Nei. Gjør sånn. Nei. Sitt ordentlig. Ja, det bra. Se.
What kind of changes have you seen over the last few months?
He has opened his eyes and he has opened his ears.
Gjør sånn. Nei. Gjør sånn.
It's easier to give him short messages like come here, sit down, give me that, stuff like that, and he's a lot better with eye contact.
Nei. 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 Nei, ikke det. Se. Tobias, se.
There's a lot out there in the autism industry trying to sell to parents you can change your child. The autism is a kind of medical separable appendage, but autism is the way your brain's wired, the way your brain is developed. You can't remove the autism without removing the person altogether.
He seemed to be angry at me when I offered him chocomilk. And that's quite unreasonable. When a nice man offers you chocomilk, you shouldn't start to cry or be angry, you should be happy. But he wasn't, but I enjoy that because I want him to be more angry. I want him to show his temper more. Because he's going to use that to learn and pick up new things. We work with children with autism, which have a very, very serious problem with a very, very bad prognosis. You cannot be afraid of conflicts. You cannot be afraid of crying, unhappy children, resistance towards demands. Then I suggest that you do something else.
The use of punishment by early practitioners gave ABA a reputation for harshness that has been hard to shake. But while punishment is no longer used, many in the autistic community continue to question ABA's basic principles.
The science it's based on is the increase or decrease in a behaviour deemed appropriate or not by non-autistic people. It can teach the child that it's not okay for them to be as they are and that they have to act differently, not like themselves, not naturally, in order to be loved and rewarded from the people around them.
Hold your hands, Jeremiah, do this. Good boy, well done. Jeremiah, can you match? Jeremiah, can you match? Do this. Do this. Good boy. Copy me? Excellent. Well done, Jeremiah. Good boy. You can have a raisin. Jeremiah, can you match? Match. Good boy. Well done, Jeremiah. Can you match? Match. Clever boy. Well done, Jeremiah. There we go. You can have beads and you can have your raisin. Clever boy. Jeremiah, can you match? Yay! Clever boy, Jeremiah. You matched. Excellent. Here we go. You can have the beads, you can have the bells, and you can have a sweet. Good boy, Jeremiah. Excellent.
I think my mum brought me up behaviourally without knowing it. If she asked me to do something, I had to do it. There was no choice about that. If I was good, I got things.
Pumpkin! Big Ten's pal, spad me. Woo! Roosh. Right, you can have your 14th tick. Should we have some mushrooms? Yeah, we can have some mushrooms. There you go, pal.
It's a very scientific approach, but when it's all broken down, to me it just makes sense. It's just, you know, it's just good parenting. It's good teaching children to gain skills and to be free of some of those behaviours that are enslaving them.
Jack, can you fold your hands? Yes, fold your hands. Good boy. Jack, fold your hands. Copy me. Copy me. Good boy, well done, Jack. Look, you can have your video. Good boy. There's a lion.
Although Jack has good
look, he comes
social
your back.
skills, like many children with autism, he struggles with routine and has problems with food.
Here he's coming.
That is Jack's diet within 2 weeks. That's all I can get into him. You go up and down. Yes. You can do it, Jack? You do it for Mummy? Good boy, well done.
What would happen if you fed Jack anything other than that now?
He would projectile vomit, definitely. It would just come out. I have tried so many different things, grinding food up, just trying him with like a bit of egg on toast, cutting it really small. There's just no end of things I've tried. He just gags, and that's it. He's just sick. I just want to see Jack eating foods that children his age would be eating. He can't be on this jar food like when he's 16. Do you know what I mean? He's just going to go on and on and on.
And do you feel it's better for the school to tackle this?
Definitely.
Than for you?
I've dealt with many things with Jack, but the food situation is a very, very difficult one. I'd like to be able to take my son to a restaurant, which is just not possible at this stage. Look at you.
Leslie started using ABA at Treetops 11 years ago. To make it possible on a state school budget, she recruits unqualified tutors who she trains and supervises herself.
The people that we've got working with the kids are not super highly trained people. I think you can teach the science to almost anyone if they're intelligent enough, but you can't teach people to be around kids and like kids. So I try and find people that are naturally good with kids.
Quack, 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 quack. Push, good boy. Ready? Push. Push. Push, good boy.
The school now has 70 pupils on one-to-one programs.
I do show parents when I come round, not all of the children are going to speak, we're not going to cure your children, but I do think everyone's reaching their full potential, and that's the important thing.
So everyone tell what this sound is? This is?
No.
Excellent, well done. Everyone have a token, brilliant. And this sound is? Brilliant.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well done. We're going to move past 5, Joe.
There is sometimes a really visceral response when you say ABA. Some people just really hate it, and others obviously don't, and others think it's been highly effective with their child. But because ABA is so intensive, you often have to work one-to-one with a therapist and child, it's therefore expensive. So it costs either parents if they go privately or local authorities, so taxpayers' money, a lot of money in order to deliver ABA to autistic children.
And what did you do yesterday?
Yesterday.
Where did you go yesterday to Daddy?
Where did they go?
It starts with A.
A.
What did you see? Tell me. You went to see some fish. Where did you go?
Aquarium.
We're trying to teach him recall, which is quite hard. It's like a new concept. He's 13 and he has the functional age of a 7-year-old, so we have quite a way. But you know, we have all the time, don't we, Ruben?
For parents like June, who don't live near Treetops and want ABA for their child, the only options are to set up a home programme or fight to get funding to attend one of the few ABA private schools.
My son went to a local authority special school. He was failed very badly. I got him out of there and started on an ABA programme, and he started talking.
So, and he's been there now for many years, and he's doing very well. As you can see, he's doing a lot of writing. But I know a lot of parents who don't have the resources to either run a home program, to get the evidence that ABA works, and then to mount a tribunal appeal to move their child into a specialist ABA school. I know a boy called Matthew. He was at the same school that my son was at, and he was there for 6 years. And he made absolutely no progress at all, actually. In fact, he regressed. And his mother wanted ABA, but didn't have the resources to make it happen. And now she's taken him out of that school, and she's home teaching him, and trying the best that she can.
Go on. Go on. Go on. Go on, hold it. Well done.
Do you feel that Matthew's been let down?
Yes, he's been in that school 6 years with no progress. The school has failed him 6 years, almost 7. Yeah, you want soup? Okay. So I have to give up everything I'm doing to look after my son. Matthew, come on. More bread. Yeah. What has happened since 2005? He's been in that school. What have you done? A child who was able to count up to 17 now only can count up to 10 independently. That's not progress. By now, Matthew should be able to count up to 100, but Matthew cannot, only 1 to 10, a 14-year-old.
What are you hoping for now?
Well, I just want a full ABA program for my son. You know, I need funding, which I haven't got. I'm just trying here and there to get some funding, which is not coming through. I want him to be independent and be able to pay back to the society. That's what my aim is, to be fully part of the society, not excluded. Look. Frog, well done. Look. Umbrella, well done. I'm the mouthpiece for him. He didn't ask for this disability to come, it just happened. So the least we could do is help him.
If you talk to people with autism, or for those who can't speak, if you spend your time observing them, what you'll see is a different cognitive style, a different way of learning, which is overlaying a different sensory perceptual system. It's not wrong, it's just different.
These differences can vary dramatically over a wide autistic spectrum.
You're going to wear your scarf today? You should with that. You had a sore throat yesterday.
Okay, we'll put it on.
It was only when we started going to nursery school that I really noticed it. He was crying, he was rolling about the floor, he was climbing under desks, he would get very upset, he would have meltdowns, he used to lash out. I'd been called into the school lots and lots because of the problems, and the speech and language therapist sat down. She said, Joss probably has something called Asperger's, and she said, well, you'll know because you're autistic as well. And I was like, no, I'm not autistic. She said, you are autistic and you need to get checked now. I had no idea what autism was. For me, when I got the diagnosis, it made everything make sense. With Joss, it made things easier. All I knew was he was going to grow up knowing that he was just great who he was, and he was his own wee person. I wasn't going to change him. I wasn't going to force him to be something or someone he wasn't. You experience the world differently. I'm being social right now. I'm conforming right now. You see me at home or things like that, I might not look at you. I might rock more. Hand flapping I'll still do, or I'll walk round in tiny circles, or my hands will go.
And is that a stress? Does it relieve the stress?
I think so. It seems to happen when I'm under stress. So it must be doing something, or my body wouldn't naturally do it.
Repetitive and self-stimulatory behaviours are defining characteristics of autism.
Whenever you look at what the goals of an ABA program are, you'll see things on there about lessening or eliminating repetitive behaviours. These are things like hand flapping, watching your fingers, the things that mark someone out and parents find them embarrassing or strange. And that's considered a perfectly good thing to use ABA to get rid of. On the other hand, if you talk to people with autism, you'll find out that these behaviors are actually functional. They're things that allow them to cope with sensory perceptual difficulties that they're having. They allow them to cope with stress. The behaviors work.
Gunnar has now been working with Tobias for 6 months.
Hei, Tobias! Kom hit, da! Kom hit, da! Få en kos, da. Godt å se deg. This is stimming. This is an activity he doesn't learn anything from. Just self-entertainment without any progress or development. Other people might think that this is a necessary activity for the children. So leave them doing it. The point is, having worked with a lot of kids, I can't see it makes them happy. I can't see it causes development. And I see loads of motivation problems and learning problems.
Gunnar has trained the parents so that they can work intensively with Tobias as his tutors.
Bra, Kjersti. Ja, det bra, Kjersti. Kjempebra. Det veldig fint. It was fantastic is how receivable he is for your instruction and your influence. You choose to watch you a lot. Just a few times you say, look at me, and he looks at you immediately.
Se der, hvor er treet? Der. Jeg er glad. Jeg blir glad, Stim.
You are not a happy parent of a child doing all the day. So it's much better to work and see the progress, and some days you go back, and I don't say that I smile every day, but it's much better when we help him than see him being worse every day.
I try to learn parents to be focused on defining the behavior as either reasonable or unreasonable. And if it's unreasonable behavior, you should demand some other behavior from the child.
Some people might think that you're being unreasonable.
I don't think so. I think I'm quite reasonable. The point is, he has to perform, he has to do something to gain the reinforcer or the wanted object. And I don't care if that stresses him today, because the goal is not today, the goal is many years ahead. And if he cried towards me at the age of 3.5 years, when he is 6, that doesn't matter, he will never remember it even, so I don't really see the dilemma.
Halfway through Jack's first term, Leslie is ready to start tackling his food issues.
The whole food thing is a really difficult issue. You can't force children to eat food against their will, and we wouldn't want to do that. But sometimes you have to encourage children to do things they don't want to do in order to be able to move them on.
Here comes dinner.
first thing that we're doing is getting Jack used to sitting at the table with food in front of him. He needs to be able to tolerate the food being there without panicking. Don't do that. We have seen quite a few cases where children will only eat orange food or only eat baby food. I've left that there thinking he may have gone for that, but he's not. That's not going to happen in a month of Sundays today. You do have to consider it's a little child and it's a person who doesn't want to do something. They're not just being difficult. They may have sensitivities or feel or think things differently to how you do. But I don't think you can let that stop you trying to teach them new skills. I think you just have to be careful how you introduce it.
Put your coat on, put your coat on, and come along out to play. Put your scarf on, put your scarf on, and make yourself nice and cosy. Put your boots on, put your boots on, and come along out to play. Socks on, Cameron.
St Christopher's take a different approach to children's issues with food.
Where are the socks?
Cameron is one of the few that refuses to eat anything. He's never eaten a solid thing in his whole entire life. So he has 6 milkshakes a day that bulk him up. He will be given exactly the same as all the other children, and then it's down to him to then make those choices of if he wants to put it to his mouth. If you try and push the children too much, you then lose that trust with them. So we try and take obviously steady steps with them to build that trust and allow them to sort of make further progress like that.
And what will happen with someone like Cameron? Because I guess that can't carry on.
No, I mean, he's 11 years old now, so Mum is discussing about medication, anxiety medication, and trying to reduce the anxieties around food. Hopefully we'll be able to then take that window of opportunity to make him feel comfortable enough to then try and eat solid foods. But it probably will end up being that he'll be tube fed.
Treetops have been working with Jack on his food issues for 3 weeks, but at home his eating has got worse.
Papa. He wouldn't even touch his custard last night. He just worried, tipped it all over the side, as if so that he knew he couldn't then eat it.
So, have you spoken to the school about it?
I didn't know what to do, and they said about coming out and showing me what to do at home, because I did want to know, but I just didn't quite realise he's got to sit there and he's not allowed to be sick. And then if he's sick, he doesn't get his custard as a reward.
What happened? Was he sick?
Yeah. And the 2 times that I tried to do it, it was just projectile vomiting. You know, it wasn't good. Just don't know the answer. But there's no way you'd have dealt with it, Mum.
No. Just don't know what to think. But he won't eat something, so you'll give him like chocolate custard.
and he'll eat that, and then he'll decide what else he wants to eat, and he's coming along lovely. That's what I want. So then, when you try him with ordinary food, he's not going to. He's trying you out.
Well, they said he's doing okay at school, but I do need to go in and see that for myself to decide whether I want to continue with the programme, because I can't do it if it's the way it was here Friday. I just can't do it.
Come on, this is when you might see a difference. Bye, good boy. Good boy, Jack.
Say bye-bye, Nana.
Never love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Nana. Nana's gone. We're going to come back in now. Going to come back in. Come in. Going to come back in. Come in. Come in, Jack. Come on, let's go in, quickly, quickly, quickly.
June works as a volunteer advisor for parents of children with special educational needs. She has stayed in touch with patients since Matthew and Reuben were at school together.
Because you've grown.
Well,
Hello?
So sorry. Sorry.
Hi.
Sorry. Ruben is 13 now?
Yes.
And Matthew is going to 15. So it's only 2 years gap.
But you know, when Matthew started, he, like as you said, he could count to 20.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ruben couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know his numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 1, 2, maybe, you know.
Matthew knew more than that when he started.
Ruben had maybe 5 words.
Mm-hmm.
He'd learned fantastically.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as you see, you know, he can read, he can write.
Mm-hmm. You see, this is one of my worry why I don't want him to go to any more special schools, whereby he picks up more negative behavior, and then, you know, it will be very unmanageable. So that's why I said I feel a little bit.
But you know, you've got him at home, but he's not, and because you don't have the money to have tutors in, he's doing nothing. He is just bored.
We do work, you know, all this you've seen, some cutting, and we do kumon,
but patience, it's a lot of work because, you know, he needs to be stimulated 6 hours a day. If you imagine a child at school, you can't manage it at home because at the moment you don't even have the funding. You need to push that side. You do.
You obviously work with loads of parents, and I wonder how unusual patients' experience is.
It's not unusual at all. It's becoming more frequent, and there are lots of families around the country doing home programs and funding it themselves. So you don't hear of them at all, but they are there. It's this kind of hidden community of parents doing ABA at home.
Gunnar considers one of his most successful home programs to have been with a family who live in Stockholm.
We're gonna say hello to Richard, Swedish boy, he's 16. He got an autism diagnosis at around age 3. The official system told mom and dad not to be too optimistic, and they should prepare themselves for sending Richard to a special school. But the parents thought otherwise.
Ja, jag minns faktiskt ingenting från när jag var liten. Jag har alltid tänkt mig att jag är normal och sånt, men jag har inga speciella minnen.
Richard plays badminton for the Swedish national junior team.
The parents contacted me and we started to work when he was 3.5. It was a struggle. Most of all, it was a struggle for the parents. Not always agreeing in how to do things.
Hej!
Tjena!
Hej, det är gott.
Hej.
Det är bra.
Ja.
Hej, välkommen.
Tusen tack.
Hej!
Tjena!
Hej Gunnar!
Man kan få det med.
Som vi hade en stora syster Rebecka då som har varit en liksom, hur lätt som helst och vi har tyckt att oj, vi är så duktiga som föräldrar. Och så får vi Rickard och försöker göra likadant och det fungerar ingenting.
Och då får man panik. Man har ett barn som inte kan prata. Hur ska han kunna kommunicera? Det var då man började tänka att han kanske inte kommer att kunna ha ett liv där han kan fungera helt normalt. Alltså. Han får bo på ett boende när han är 18-20 år. Och det var då vi började ringa runt och försöka få kontakt med olika människor. Och det var då vi hörde talas om Gunnar Glöersen. Och det räckte för mig, för då tänkte jag att här har vi ett liten chans.
Och vi var ju tvungna att ändra vårt beteende. Så att det är inte bara barnets beteende man ändrar utan det är ju ens eget beteende.
Det var framförallt jag som hade det svårt när vi tränade för att jag kunde bli väldigt ledsen ibland och då sa Gunnar till mig då att det är bättre att du bara lämnar rummet, du kan inte vara kvar här. Utan om du har problem, då får du gå ut och då får du söka hjälp, sa han egentligen. Utan, alltså... Du vet när jag gick ut, när jag blev ledsen och bara åkte ut med bilen och bara körde och det bara regnade. Ja. Och jag var jätteledsen och du sa bara okej. Jag är inte här för att ta hand om dig. Jag är här för att ta hand om Rickard.
Jag tror även en sak till mig också när vi kom i luven på varandra.
Just precis.
Det spelar ingen roll för mig att vi bråkar. För jag är inte intresserad av hur du känner dig. Jag är intresserad av hur Rickard
Det är ett under att du inte gav mig fyken då.
So this is his birthday, is it?
This is his 2-year birthday.
Här är jag.
Ricka huvudet över varandra.
Stå. Nej, händer still. Skärpning, stå upp.
This is in November. He's born in April, 3.5.
And so at this point speech hadn't really started?
No,
speech?
not at all.
Not at all.
Ska vi jobba? Varsågod och sitt. Händerna. Fint.
No, he doesn't want to watch more.
He's a really happy child right now, and it's great that we have done this, but it's hard to see.
It was very surprising, and I never think it was so hard, and I think I was sick but not so sick.
He had a condition that tells him to try to avoid demanding situations. It was very difficult to find anything you could use as a proper reinforcer. There was a couple of things he could like, but nothing he was willing to climb Mount Everest to get. You see what I mean? So we had to be firm. If not, he wouldn't take us seriously. But seeing the result today, I don't personally feel very, very bad about it. Listening to Richard telling that he really doesn't recall actually anything from that period. So it's a little bit in a hospital when you get hurt. It looks like a mess. It's blood all over, you know, it's sweat, it's tears, it's sadness. And then they fix you.
We got all back to the doors today. Shall we shut them?
I can't believe him. Why did he give me all that grief?
Yes, good boy. There you go. Clever boy.
You know, I've been reading in the book that he's not been sick for the past 2 days. So, obviously, it is me. It's got to be me, isn't it?
It's going to be a long process, and that emotional attachment makes it so much harder because you don't want to see him upset and distressed, and you know, and he's not used to you doing things like that with him, you know. So he's got a whole new learning process.
Where's that truck? Who's that? Hey, what are you doing here, Mummy?
I didn't think I'd see you here today.
What's she doing? Did you come to speak to Michaela? Wow, Mummy! Mummy!
Have you been eating food? You've been eating food? I think we might get tears.
Just go and sit over there with Michaela. We're nearly finished now, haven't we, Jack?
Them trucks.
This is the last one.
Look, where are they?
This is the last.
Gone.
Where's the trucks?
Where's the truck gone?
People have to think very carefully about exactly what compliance is teaching their children, because you're giving way to an adult. You are complying with an adult all the time, and that can leave you extremely vulnerable. Extremely vulnerable.
Yeah, we're done today. So he tried 2 bits of everything and no gag at all.
Come on, you can cuddle, Mummy.
I think the argument is it's the child's right to say no, but we believe that it's the child's right to be able to experience other things, and they don't really know what they're saying no to because they've got a barrier. So it's about removing those barriers and retraining the brain so that actually they can access a whole lot of other things and enjoy a much fuller life.
Although I wasn't diagnosed as a child, it was obvious that I was different. You know, there's no blame, there's no hard feelings, but this drive to make me look, appear, behave, think, feel, experience everything in a normal way was, it broke me inside. It is a form of cruelty to deny a person who they are. There was no cruel intent there. There was the best interest was always there. But it wasn't right for me. And I couldn't put Joss into a system or a program that wasn't designed for him. I couldn't rob Joss of who he was, of his soul, of his essence. And if part of that was autistic, then fair enough. It's not necessarily a bad way of living. But there's other people who are profoundly autistic, and I can't speak for them.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jeremiah. Happy birthday to you. Ready, steady.
Some people suggest that the goal of ABA is compliance with social norms, with rules, and that is in fact true. But everybody expects that from their children. Nobody wants chaos. We are who we are due to some genetic endowment, but most of who we are is in fact the result of a set of environmental events completely out of our control and unwittingly applied by people around us. But the fact that we're unaware of it doesn't make it any less effective.
Dr. Vince Carbone is a leading ABA practitioner and researcher from New York. He constructed the program that Treetops follows and visits the school twice a year.
Who's that?
This is Jack.
It's Jack, huh? Thought that was funny, huh, Jack? Look at him sign. In the book. Nice, Jack. That's great. I think it's important that people pay attention to what people with autism say about ABA therapy. But we're not trying to change the soul or the essence of the person. What we're attempting to do is change their behavior patterns so that they garner more reinforcement during their life than they do negative attention and punishment from the social community.
And a biscuit. Well done.
Right, do some exercise. Don't let you freeze. Matt, go on the bike. I'm not regretting what I did because any mother in my position would do the same. It breaks my heart to watch him growing up, not getting any better. The love for my child is a drive, nothing else. It's that love that I have for my son that drives me to do anything that it takes. If I don't fight for him, nobody does. 18. 20. Thank you. Shall we go home? Let's go to town. Sir. Matthew, come on. It's getting dark, look. Night time. Night time. Listen. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Home time. Home time. You going home? You going home? You want me to leave you? Yeah. I'm going now, Matt. I'm going. Yeah. Bye-bye. Matthew, I'm going. Bye-bye. I'm going. Are you coming? You coming? Come on. Let's go. Come on.
You know, he used to look at me
Even if you call for him, he was never used to come. Things changed. I mean, he does come to me now. I'm much happier than what I was. That stress level is, reduced enormously. The changes are always going to be slow. There is no quick fix. But the changes are very positive. And if he's going to a mainstream school, I don't think it would have happened.
Do you feel that you're just able to communicate better with him?
Yeah.
Jeremiah, how is your sweeties? Sweeties. How is your crisps?
Chris, good boy.
How you say raisins?
Raisins.
How is your biscuits? Biscuits. How is your bubbles? Bubbles. How is your up? Up. How is your up?
A good boy. And Baba, show his nose, eyes and all that.
Touch your nose. Touch your nose. Touch your nose. Look. Touch your head. Head. Look. Touch your head. He's a good boy. Spin.
There is this fine line about knowing when to allow children to kind of step out of their comfort zone and when not to. And this is, I think, the case for all children, but it's particularly difficult for children with autism who are often very set in their ways. Can they be pushed at this moment in time in order to experience something new, or should we just kind of hold back? And parents and teachers are making these really quite subtle ethical decisions all the time.
Yeah, I know. It'll be here in a minute. Dinner come in a minute. We'll watch the children first. Yeah, look. Look, Jack. Wow. Yeah, Mummy's going to catch it up for you. Here you go. Look at him, I never thought this day would come. Never. Nothing makes him sick anymore. Oh, it's just absolutely fantastic.